All right, so this process is to take a 223 case like this, rimless case, and you turn it into a 2520 single shot rimmed case, or its derivatives like the 22 Lovell. And to do that, take just an ordinary 7mm 7x57 die, and I had this big chunk of 1-inch thick metal sitting around, so I drilled a 7/8 hole through it and put a nut on the die and mounted it up here. And the next size of a 7mm is exactly the diameter that we want to take this to. As you can see, it's quite a bit slimmer, and we're going to squeeze that down. I made this punch, which is roughly the size and shape of the outside of a 7mm case. And then you have to have a pin here that's the size of your primer pocket, because otherwise it'll crush the primer pocket and squeeze it closed. And when you cut this, you have to cut a little dish so that when it squeezes this, it actually squeezes it so that it's slightly convex on this surface, which makes it a little bit thicker because the rim thickness isn't quite thick enough. So that's how you get around that. Whoops. And then this is just a bolt that I ground down a little bit so that it'll fit in here, and that's how you drive it out of the die. So we'll do that next. All right, so this is how we press this. I had this press over here, but the design on this thing, you got like one tube within another, so everything's like really floppy, and it pushes down on this. I don't know, it's this stupid camera, but it's not even like machined or perfectly square. And this is under a little bit of tension, but it's real floppy and loose. So anyway, so I bought this, we can see it here, this nice dake. Good American company. It is made in China, but it's pretty darn good quality. So we'll get this set up. All right. So what you do, lube up your case here. Get that good and lubed. And, oh, yeah. It's been a while since I've done this, so, yeah. This little tit, first of all, this is separate because in order to machine this, I had to make that a little bit concave. And so then this pin, I don't remember the exact diameter, but it's the same diameter as the inside of your primer pocket. And you have to have this in there, or else when you do this, it'll crush your primer pocket closed. So that goes on there. That goes up in there. This goes over here. And you just pump away. You want to make sure this is on here square. And you got a gauge up here to show you your pressure. And what I've found is about 3,500 pounds. Because you go higher pressure than that, it starts pushing that donut back too far. So you get that right in there where it's, all right. And just pump that baby down. Let's stop here and just show you what it looks like if you don't go far enough. This is just a bolt, quarter-inch bolt that I just roughly ground down so that it fits in a 22 neck. And we'll just pop that back out here just to... So you can see what it looks like. Actually, we don't have a donut yet. We're a long way from a donut, but you can see what we're doing here. We're just shoving that baby down. So bolt back. Put this back on there. Make sure you go in from the right end. And again, make sure there's no side pressure on this and that it's going down pretty straight when you start it. All right. Oh, and I also, I don't think you can see it probably, but I machined this fine line right there where my fingernail is. I actually made this really fine line, and that's how deep you want to go. All right, so we're still not even really showing any pressure on the gauge yet. That's how easy this is. See, the gauge is only just now starting to come up, and we're within an eighth of being there. In fact, why don't I show you what that looks like with the donut almost there, just so you, because you got to get that donut all the way back, or else. So, all right, so let me see what that looks like. Yeah, so you got a donut, but you can see it doesn't have a peak to it. It's got like a flat edge to it. So you gotta form that into a peak and push that all the way back. So get rid of that. And also we haven't really started squeezing it all because the primer pocket isn't gripping that pin at all. So you just drop that in there. All right, we'll do it for real this time. And we got to watch that. Again, I don't know if you can see that line, but it's right there. I measured it carefully, and then I actually marked it with my laser engraver. Just a real thin line. And you just want to make sure you're not pushing sideways. You don't have the side pressure. So we got like no resistance here at all, really. And now you're coming up. We're down to like a less than the last eighth. And now we're starting to build just a little bit of pressure. Because of the fact that we've already done most of this. You can see we're getting down real. And then we're up just under 3,000. But it's going to read a little low on the pressure this time because we already did part of it. So we're down. That's quite flush. And you can see the pressure's really starting to come up here. We're up a little over 3,000. But let me just, yeah, I'll go just a hair more. Yeah. All right. So that's good. So that was about just a little over 3,000. If you're doing it all in one push, it's typically about 3,500. You can see we didn't even crush the primer pocket down enough to even grip that thing, because sometimes you have to take a pair of pliers and pull that out of the primer pocket. And you just Drop that in there. Center it. And then you just push this out of here. And there it is. Let me see what that looks like. I can't. Yeah, so that, see, that pushed that up into a sharp edge right there. Into a sharp peak. And that's what you're looking for. You got to push it that far. So, and then it goes to the lathe to get this part cut off. That little donut cut off, and then you're on your way. And this is actually a cross section that I made that shows where this donut is that we pushed back in the die in the first step. And this is just a cutaway of it so you can see how thick it is here. So some kind of pointer. So actually, it's not much of a pointer, but anyway, this is your little donut that gets pushed back, and you can see how thick it is there. So you got all kinds of material there and good thickness on the wall thickness. And it also shows why it's real important to push that donut all the way back so that you're past the web here, so that you got full thickness here, because otherwise if it's back up this way a little bit and you go cutting it off, you're going to end up with it thin here and it'll separate easily. Okay, so this is the second phase of the operation. That's the end result. But you take these that you've pushed the donut back down on, and a little bit of rosin powder. Just to help the drive stick a little better. And this is just a little piece of aluminum that I cut so that this little knob is the exact size of the primer pocket and the same depth. And you just put that on there. Give that a good crank, because you're going to bell the mouth a little bit, but it doesn't matter because you're going to be cutting that last 1/4 inch off anyway. You're going to take really light cuts. This is actually a little bit heavy cut, but that rosin really makes it. And sometimes you get these little slivers that don't come off, and I've found that you really want to take them off as you're doing it, because if you let them build up, they seem to scratch the face of the rim there a little bit. And just take it down to 0. in that direction. And you just take this down a couple thousandths at a time. And we'll take this down for the last cut. And then what I do is I come in, I take off about another 3,000, just to clean up that edge of the rim. And that's it. Oh, and also sometimes you have a little bit, even after doing that extra 3,000, you have a little bit of stuff that's still stuck here a little bit. And usually even just a fingernail will clean that off. Or sometimes I use my knife blade and just kind of give it a little light scrape, and it just helps keep that little stuff that's still stuck there. And now it's ready to have the neck cut down. Okay, and so for cutting the necks down, I have this cheap little Harbor Freight cutoff saw. You can see here. Actually bought this back when 300 Blackout first came out, and the only way you could get any brass was to cut your own. So this is already set so that the rim sits and hooks on that. And you got to make sure this doesn't move. It's a little bit noisy, but you just go in here. And you whack the end off like that. I don't know where the piece went. But anyway, it's a little less than 1/4 of an inch long. And then you just come over here and trim it to length. And this is already set up for doing this cut, so that's cut to length now, and now you just form the neck.